happened there? Do whatever the Hyundai you want.
Hey, I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
G'day, I'm Marcus Ambrose.
Hey, this is Kenny Rose, and you're listening to the
Fuel Pod.
This podcast covers all things motorsports. It's unfiltered, it's unmasked, and
Ooh, we're going crazy.
Hola, mi amigo. You're on mute. Welcome to the Fuel Pod, where Jay's waving his hand like he doesn't care because he's on mute. I don't know why he's on mute, but he is. Welcome.
No, I was waving my hand because it looked like you were doing the over the
hip hop hooray.
I'm here.
YouTube algorithm going to kick us off. Ho! Good afternoon, Jay. How are you today? Uh-oh.
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's just a crazy day in the Hitchy household. But it's okay. We had a huge tree fall down in our backyard this week, so I was cutting when you were texting earlier. I was cutting it up, and a neighbor was hauling it off to burn, and so that's what I was doing. But we're here now. We're a little earlier than normal, Jay.
That's true, man. We're about an hour and a half, well, almost an hour and a half early.
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of like it. I can see the sun shining.
And it shouldn't be that long of a show, I don't think.
Okay. Well,
I do too.
You're the boss here. You're the boss. Where are we going first? Uh-oh, Jay.
Okay, well, we've got to talk about the Canadian Grand Prix. We also have to. I don't know what's going on there.
I think Jay has a little bit of lag. I have a little bit
on my end, so I don't know if it's
okay. Well, I tell you what.
Either way,
when you can, it's a lot like Jay. Could go either way. Okay, so I'll let you kick off the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm just going to be quiet and let you go forth and conquer.
Okay. So the Canadian Grand Prix was this weekend, and I think we can skip practice as far as our discussion goes, but we have to talk about qualification. Quali was like, I put in the rundown, I put wipe on, wipe off because it felt like the rain was there, and then the rain was gone, and the rain was there, and then the rain was gone. But I think the biggest story, well, there was two big stories. One was Alex Albon putting in a miraculous lap to get him, towards the front on race day. And then the other one was Carlos Sainz absolutely bending Pierre Gasly over, basically. So, which is an American term, not a preferences term, but and really cutting him out of qualifying and forcing him to pretty much race from the back of the grid on Sunday. So I don't know if you got to see all the quali, but it was kind of a weird quali.
I didn't get to see any of qualifying.
And of course,
unfortunately,
the lag is apparently so bad right now. Chad's probably, yeah. I don't know what's going on, folks. I really apologize, but it's kind of a mess, lag-wise. So
it's okay.
Trying to fix it on my end, but I don't really have anything. I mean, it's doing well. Anyway, let's move on to the race. I think the biggest takeaways for the race this weekend that we got to look at is the fact that, all the teams, well, at least the front running teams were closer to Red Bull this weekend. And really, really soaked up the gap that Red Bull had. I mean, he didn't finish by 30 seconds ahead. When I say he, obviously I'm talking about Max Verstappen, who still won the race, but by a, almost humbling at this point. I think it was about 9 seconds, which is still a lot, but better than usual. And, I miss not having my back and forth with Chad right here. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me okay now?
But Aston Martin and Mercedes definitely inching away at the Red Bull advantage. There were a bunch of really it's weird that Lando Norris, it felt like he was just constantly in trouble with race control. Even though he had some of his best driving towards the end of the race. I mean, I know he had he was under investigation for the unsafe exit from the pit lane, and then he was under investigation for basically unsportsmanlike conduct, or F1's version of it, and ended up getting a 5-second penalty for it. So that was really weird. Chad?
Yes. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We were talking about the signs as 5-second penalty. Is that what you're talking about? I was just letting you go.
I'm talking about Lando's 5-second penalty.
On what? Which part? When he got the unsafe release?
I just figured.
I'm only hearing about every other word.
No, it was the unsportsmanlike conduct, basically.
What was that for?
Okay,
what happened?
Well, I'm sorry, man.
Now I got
I'm
you.
hearing all
good.
Yours, and I'm hearing all
Okay,
of
now
mine.
I got you pretty good.
Okay,
how did Lando get the unsportsmanlike conduct?
Okay, so he had backed up he had backed up the whole field during the safety car, and had slowed everybody down, holding them back. And I guess they ruled it as too slow. So they ruled it as too slow, and then later in the race, he got the 5-second penalty.
He was penalized. He got unsafe release, right?
He spent the rest of the race driving. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
He he had a kind of a rough race.
I mean,
he had kind of a rough race. It was he
did.
And I couldn't figure out. I we're kind of going back and forth as our computers or yours just came into focus really well on my end. So I don't know if it was my internet, your internet, whatever. Is it working now? Pretty good.
Yeah.
Still
absolutely.
better anyway. Okay. So he had kind of a weird race, and I don't know what's going on with him and McLaren. Because they had a weird exchange on the radio. You know, he wanted to know what the penalty was for. And they were like, yeah, we'll talk about it later. And he's like, why don't we just talk about it right now? And they're like, no, we'll talk about it later. It's very weird back and forth between him and his race engineer that I thought was strange. But then you have a Nick DeVries thing in here about him being a knucklehead. Why is he a knucklehead, Jay?
Okay, so Nick DeVries got into a scrap with K-Mag in the race. Instead of letting it go, it went through like 3 or 4 corners of those two back and forth. And then finally, DeVries just locked up K-Mag on the outside, and he drove them both off the track into the service road. And it was just it was a knucklehead move. I mean, it was terrible. And so that's why I called him a knucklehead, man. So,
yeah, I get it, man. I get it. It was a very weird move. They both kind of went off in that little catch area right there. And then they had to back up out of there. Couldn't figure out how to get out. It was a weird moment in the race, honestly.
Right.
Alonso and Hamilton. That was
I gotta tell you, man. Go ahead.
Great fight. There's a great fight back and forth. It was a lot of fun to watch.
That was my favorite part of the whole race. Yeah. Yeah, those two were just after each other the whole time. I still think Aston Martin has the edge on Mercedes, but Mercedes is getting there. And I think it's showing, except for Russell. He had a loss of focus this weekend, and he blamed his entire incident on himself, which is, uncharacteristic of George Russell.
It is. What he just took that corner wrong, right? I mean, it just looked like he was just out of whack coming out of that little chicane area.
He went full send, and the back right corner of his car nailed the wall, and that was it pretty much. I think he had some frame damage personally, but it was never the same after that. I mean, they did get him back out on the track.
And he gave it the good college try, honestly. I mean, he moved up through the field. He was taking play. I think he was back up to 6th and then kind of got in a DRS train. His brakes overheated, and that was it. But
yeah.
I mean, it was kind of cool to see him driving up back to the field.
Another weird thing from this weekend was Checo. I mean, it just seemed like he wasn't even there. I mean, he literally seemed inconsequential for the entire race.
He has for the last couple of races. I really wonder what's going on. I don't know if he's defeated. I think you said that at one time. But he's just like, whatever at this point. Or if it's somebody on, I don't know, I listened to another F1 podcast, F1 Nation, and they were talking about maybe the Red Bull car is just a little bit harder to drive than people realize, and Checo's just having a really hard time with it. I don't know. It just seems really weird, though.
Well, I don't believe that, but I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. I know the press was eating his lunch this week. I just didn't have the time to read
rightly
the articles,
so,
but yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
He has been non-existent for 4 races.
I honestly think it all started when they signed Daniel Ricciardo, because in the back of his mind he's thinking, man, if I screw it, they're just going to bring. That's what they brought him in here for, was to take my seat.
Yeah, but I mean, he won 2 of the first 4 races.
Yeah, he did, and that was cool. But then he had one bad race, which you get those in Formula One. Everybody has those,
except for the robot.
Yeah, But he didn't bounce back from it, and hasn't. It's been, like you said, it's been like 3 races, I think. So it's weird, man.
It is. It's very weird.
And I watch a lot of races with F1 Farmer and Chaz, and Chaz is a huge Checo fan, and I feel bad for him, man, because I know it's one of his favorite drivers, but he's just not. I mean, he's literally irrelevant right now, and you can't be irrelevant if you're a Red Bull driver.
That's true.
I mean, Helmut Marko once won 2, but Christian Horner's at the very least, won 5. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
and that's not where he is. And Ferrari had a good weekend, man, and that's unfortunate for Checo, but they did have a good weekend. They really kind of put it back together. I think there's some inter-team issues. I think the team orders on Carlos Sainz to leave Leclerc ahead when Sainz was clearly faster. That boggled my mind.
Yeah,
sort of. I don't know how you felt about that, but I mean, he was clearly catching him. And then next thing you know, they let us hear Leclerc's audio, and his race engineer is like, keep pushing. Carlos will not be attacking. And I was like, why not?
Yeah, which is the opposite of what they used to do.
Right.
It's so weird. But
yeah, I figured they'd at least be giving Charles hey, if you can't turn in a 16.5, then Carlos,
which is what they did to Carlos. When we were in Silverstone, one of the main ones where Carlos caught on fire. Yes. Actually, I think Carlos was leading and Leclerc was.
No, that was Red Bull Ring.
Okay, maybe it was Red Bull Ring. But I just remember that, it was, hey, you got 4 or 5 laps, because we all were like, wait, you gave him 3 laps too many here. Give him 1 lap, maybe 2, and then let Leclerc go. Don't hold up progress. And right now, Ferrari, in my opinion, needs a win or needs a good showing here. I mean, I know they finished 4 or 5, they started 9-12, but I mean, if you got a guy in Sainz that's running faster, let him go. Let him attempt to get up there. Maybe have a spot on the podium. I don't know that he would have caught anybody, but still.
I really like and I know he's really ticked off and pissed off at the team right now, but I really like where Carlos is kind of going with his racing, because I've always liked him. He's my favorite of their 2 drivers, but he always has this, and you and I have talked about it a million times. He's got this sense of hesitancy about him. You know what I mean? Where
he's passive.
Yeah, and I mean he's an aggressive driver without being aggressive towards other drivers.
But he needs to get a little aggressive towards other drivers sometimes.
Yeah, and he has the past couple of weeks, and I've really liked it, but he's getting kind of hosed by the team, so that's kind of bugging me. And then there was a, and I didn't put it on Rip from the Paddock, but I saw an article in my Google feed that Sainz is already shopping for a new team. I mean, I don't know how valid that is. It's hard to tell. I mean, it was a pretty reputable source, but saying that he's done with Ferrari and he wants to leave, but. We're in a weird situation where we're getting close to the pre-silly season, and
where's he going to go?
I mean, how many drivers can we name that are pretty ticked off with their team?
I mean, I'm looking at the thing right now.
Lando is ticked.
Okay, so just go down the list. Sergio Perez, right? Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll. I know his daddy's the one running it, but he looks like an idiot right now. Actually, everything we said at the beginning of the year, where we said, was Lance Stroll good enough to keep Aston Martin afloat, is kind of coming true. Fernando Alonso's doing what he's supposed to do, but Lance Stroll's not holding up his end of the bargain. Lando.
Right.
Valtteri Bottas is one that I think may be done after this year. I don't know why. I just get that feeling watching him. Logan Sargent, Nick DeVries, those are all going to be open
I totally
spots.
agree with you. He did. Bottas did better at Canada, but that's one of his favorite tracks. He has the track record there. So,
and I don't even mean.
I mean, that makes sense in a way.
I don't even mean like his what he's saying or what he's doing. It's just his demeanor seems different this year. He still seems happy, but I just wonder if he's done. Something about him makes me think that he's done. I don't know why. Maybe this is his swan song.
I think this is like it's like a vacation year for him, man.
It just seems that way, doesn't it? I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that, because it really felt that way. But anyway.
It's sort of like what Vettel did. Vettel did that. He just kind of
just didn't seem like he was completely engaged. I don't know. Again, maybe we're wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just seems that way. And if it's true, I promise you the Fuel Pod's the first ones talking about it. 100%. No, Jay is getting laggy on me again. Either that or he's having a stroke. I'm not sure which one. Maybe me again. Are you still there, buddy? Uh-oh. All right. Or he just caught up. Are you still there? The joys of podcasting in the internet world.
Video. Do you have me at all?
Am I lagging? I do. I have you now.
Okay.
So
because
we're going to edit all this audio out. So going to Red Bull claiming their 100th victory. I think that's where we are in our little rundown here. What's crazy about Red Bull claiming their 100th victory is that Max Verstappen has 41% of those wins. How crazy is that?
And I'd say almost all the rest of them, with the exception of the few that Danny got, but the rest of them are going to be Vettel.
I mean, that's a big number. I mean, Checo has what, 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5. I don't know how many Danny got.
Yeah.
2 or 3.
I think 3 or 4.
And then you got.
Yeah.
I mean, like, holy Moses, that's a big chunk.
Vettel.
He actually said that in the afterwards. They were like, "Oh, what do you think about Red Bull having 100 wins?" He's like, "Well, I got 41 of them, so we might bring that up at contract time." It's kind of crazy, but to think that he has 41% of the Red Bull's team's overall wins is pretty insane. Pretty insane, but
and that he's gotten all of them within the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, how many has he won in a row right now?
8, 9 if you count Abu Dhabi from last year.
Red Bull has, but how many has Max won in a row? 6?
He's won 8.
No, because Checo won some.
Oh, no, that's right. You're right. Red Bull's won 8. So
Red Bull's won 8.
He's won in a row.
I think he's either won 5. I don't know. I can't remember how many it is.
3 maybe, and 4 in a row.
I'll look at it here in just a second. Let's see. Are we going to move into Rip from the Paddock?
Yeah, let's do Rip from the Paddock.
Are you ready for Rip from the Paddock? Who's next? What's next? What's the next race? Hold on. What's the next race?
Red Bull Ring, Austria.
Red Bull Ring? Because in their schedule, for some reason, it shows Silverstone next, which is in July, but that can't be right. Maybe these are in.
Yeah, June 30th is Red Bull Ring, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I love the Red Bull Ring.
All right, Rip from the Paddock. Oh, it is. It's one of my favorite tracks as well, man.
All right,
Rip from the Paddock. Has Aston Martin's Canadian GP upgrade made them a genuine threat to Red Bull?
No. What do you think?
No.
That didn't take long. Now, no. I think they are. Here's the deal. I don't even think they're. I think Mercedes is going to pass them. 1, 2, 3. He's won 4 in a row, by the way.
Okay.
I think Mercedes is going to pass them and leave them. I think Fernando's going to finish second in the points, but I think Mercedes is going to finish second in constructor. Is my opinion.
No.
I mean, they're up 13 right now. Lance Stroll has not shown that he can consistently outperform George Russell.
That's true.
I don't think, because I think that's really the argument here, because Fernando and Hamilton are going to be back and forth, 2, 3,
Right.
3, 4, 4, 3. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be back and forth. I feel like those two are on equal ground right now, both legendary drivers and similar cars and about the same cars.
See, I think this is where Ferrari could play spoiler.
I mean, Ferrari is 40 points back.
I get it, but Leclerc's car is in between Fernando's and Hamilton's car as far as its ability. Now, what can Leclerc, Leclerc or Sainz, what can they do with it? It's kind of up to them and their team, but I think that's where we're sitting right now. Red Bull's got the fastest car, and then Aston Martin, and then Ferrari, and then Mercedes. Does Mercedes probably have better drivers?
Hold on,
probably?
wait. You said Red Bull, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Mercedes is what you think?
No, Red Bull, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Mercedes.
Oh. Even with all the upgrades, you think Mercedes is fourth out of those four?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. The downside for Ferrari is that Mercedes has better drivers.
Okay.
And I think they have an edge when it comes to that part of the rule of three. So yeah, I agree with you, but in a way, but I still think Ferrari's going to play spoiler on that and keep Mercedes. At least that's my hope.
So you think what's your prediction for the final? What do you think it's going to be? You really think it's going to end up being Aston Martin's going to get second and Ferrari's going to get third?
No, I just think they're going to be able to. It's sort of like when you introduce an independent party candidate in an election, man. They're going to take points away from one of them, right?
Gotcha.
I think that's what I think.
Okay.
I think Ferrari's going to be able to dissipate some of Mercedes's points, but not Aston's.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man, we got Austria. It's a sprint race week too.
Yeah, it is.
I like the sprint races. I think those are fun.
I just got done with that one on my F123 career.
I don't know. I have Canada next.
Ooh, yeah.
Canada, and I turned my difficulty up, and I am Canada. I'm not doing very well. I'm finishing. I'm in a newcomer car, which is what I wanted to do, and I'm finishing. Now that I've turned my difficulty up a little bit, I'm finishing mid points, 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that every week. I'm finishing 6, so I feel good about it. I'm not finishing back with Haas and Williams, so I'm happy with that. But the competitive video gamer in me is a little irritated that I'm not doing better, because if I make one little mistake, Jay, I told you that earlier. If I make one little mistake, I'm in the shit. It's not going to go well. So, all right. It's definitely encouraging, says Leclerc of Ferrari's Canadian GP turnaround as Sainz addresses team orders call. Did you already talk about this one?
I have not.
Okay.
I mean, we kind of have. We sort of have, but I think there's really two pieces to this. There's the Leclerc piece, which is the part I wanted to highlight the most. It's definitely encouraging. And I think they should be, man. They started the race 9 and 12 and finished 4-5. And it takes a little bit of strategy to do that, to get them together to where they could protect each other. And so my hat's off to the team. They did a good job. I thought they had just completely screwed their pit strategy again, to the point where I just stood up with my hand on my forehead and walked around because I was so pissed. Yeah. But obviously they were honestly smarter than I was, because that was a good move.
Well, and here's the deal. You're, as a Ferrari fan, you are accustomed to them getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. I mean, you're used to them getting it wrong. So when they make a controversial call like that or one that's not normal, you immediately think it's the wrong decision.
Yeah, and it's easy to think that decision was bad because there was a safety car and everybody came in but Ferrari. I was like, dude, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And then we come off a safety car and everybody's got like 2-lap-old tires and Ferrari's got 14-lap-old tires. I'm like, what in the hell are they doing? But it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah. Last one. Alonso says he pulled off 70 laps of qualifying to beat Hamilton in an amazing battle for second. I agree, buddy. That was an excellent job.
That was insanely awesome to watch, especially because when Lewis passed him, I thought, okay, that's done. There's your 1, 2, 3. And for him to work back through was pretty awesome.
First off, Chad, it's Sir Lewis.
Sorry, my bad.
Anyway,
100% my fault.
So Sir Lewis is up there, and I mean he's pulling. You see him pulling off all the same tricks he's been doing his whole career, trying to get around. But my favorite was the completely savage line that Alonso delivered towards the end of the race. Did you hear it?
No.
So his race engineer calls Fernando Alonso and says, so Hamilton is 1.9 behind. And Alonso goes, yeah, I'll take care of it.
God
Leave
love
it to
that
me.
guy.
Leave it to me. I'll take care of it.
Leave it to me. I got this. That's great.
So I was like, yes. That they should have put the sunglasses and the blunt and played the Snoop Dogg like they do on all the memes.
Yeah.
Totally be an OG gangster right there. So
That's
all
funny.
right, man. Let's move on to IndyCar.
I didn't get to watch any of this race, unfortunately, because they had golly, man, they had I think more passes than it was 300 and something passes during the week or during the race.
Dude, there were 247,000 passes in the first 3 laps.
I mean, part of me, I'm gonna have to go back on Peacock and watch the highlights. They have highlights on there. I have to go back and watch that because it sounds like it was amazing. How crazy
is it? How much IndyCar we're talking about?
Dude, I love IndyCar. We made fun of IndyCar last year. I remember saying, "Oh, the Grand Prix of Alabama."
Last year wasn't that good.
And
last year wasn't that good. Actually, that was me, so I'll take credit for the Grand Prix of Alabama.
But man, it has been fun to watch and keep up with. And Alex Palou just keeps on rolling.
Dude, Palou looked good. Kirkwood looked good. But, I mean, they're starting to fall into the same pattern that F1 does. I hate to say that, but it's the same 4 guys.
I think Newgarden ran second, maybe.
Yeah, Newgarden was second, and then Dixon had a good run. Will Power was the only surprise, but he had a shit weekend, man. He wanted to punch Grosjean in the face. In fact, he told the press somebody needs to punch that man in the face. Awesome. Says every F1 driver of all time. But anyway, Grosjean it was a terrible weekend. He was in the gravel pit, and then he spun out like 2 or 3 times. He finished 25th, I think.
That's crazy.
Marcus Ericsson and Lundgaard finished together. I can't remember. I thought it was like 8-9 maybe or 7-8.
I'm looking at it right now. Ericsson and Lundgaard 6-7. Finished 6-7.
Close enough.
Yeah.
But Palou was great. Pato O'Ward kind of screwed up again early in the race, but did a really wonderful recovery drive, and I think he finished P3.
He finished P3. He finished on the
podium. Colton Herta kind of turned his because he had been kind of falling off, and then Herta came back this weekend, so that looked good. But the race was good, but dude, the fights were people were just completely brutal to each other out there, running them off the road.
Really?
Yeah.
See, now I said I'm going to watch the highlights, man.
Road America is a weird track anyway, Chad, because it's old and it's rough. And it's narrow, and it's got some really high speeds, sweeping turns that barely qualify as turns at all. So if you hang a tire out off the road, and this is what happened to Grosjean, he hung one little, section of one tire off that road, and it barely hit that little bit of gravel, and it just pulled his car completely off the track. So I know other drivers obviously knew that. And, all you had to do was get somebody edged up to the road just enough to where they could catch that, and that'd be it. Gotcha. Plus, the track had been repaved, and the drivers were absolutely ecstatic about how much grip they had, only on the part that was repaved. If you were off the line, it was awful. And that's what happened to a lot of guys, man, off the track.
Gotcha. I'm looking at the one thing I didn't know about Indy drivers, man. Or about the IndyCar series is how close the championships are. Did you know how close the championships are?
Yeah, they're pretty close.
So I'm looking back.
If you're referring to points or?
Yes. I don't know what their point structure is. 2018, Scott Dixon wins it by like 50 points, which is relatively close.
Yeah.
2020, they win it by 16 points. 21, 30 points. 22, 16 points. And right now it's one of the bigger leads, 80 points, 74 points. It's Alex Palou, winning over Marcus Ericsson and Joseph Newgarden. But and they end up being a pretty daggum close series. I mean, even as close as NASCAR without a playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's genuine racing, no gimmicky playoff at the end, and it's still really close. Like I said, I don't know what their point structure is for the week, like what they get for wins and first, second, third, whatever. But I mean, it must be. I like it. It looks like it's tight racing every week. As
And
I'm
it
just
is,
getting
man.
into the sport,
And it is fun to watch. I'd like to remind you again, though, and I know this is going to be the devil's cynic, not advocate, but they do only have one chassis, and
Yeah,
they only
for
have
sure.
two power unit suppliers. So I feel like it's going to be tight as long as the driving talent is there. And
Which
for the
clearly it
most,
is.
yeah, for the most part, they're all pretty tight. I mean, at least that top 15.
Yeah.
It kind of falls off after that, but not much. But anyway, yeah, you're right, which actually brings up the controversial question I thought of just in my weekend ponderings. Does IndyCar owe any of their rising popularity to Drive to Survive, and by extension, Formula One?
In my opinion, yes, because I'm going to use me as a case study. I watched Drive to Survive, found out I loved it, started watching. Not only did I watch Drive to Survive and love it, I started watching the races and loving them. And I realized that I liked open wheel racing. So I was like, okay, I'll check it. I don't know why. Why did we talk about? Oh, we went to Texas Motor Speedway. We got our media credentials, went down there, hung out for a little bit,
Yeah.
looked at watched the cars on the track, and I realized, holy crap, this looks pretty stinking cool. And so that's where mine came from. I realized I like open wheel racing because of F1 and because of Drive to Survive, and it has led me into IndyCars. Now, there's been some weeks that I've chosen the IndyCar race to watch it if I only get to watch one over F1. This week was not that week because I really like Canada. But I mean, there's a lot of times that I'll watch the IndyCar race. If I can only have time to watch one, I'll watch the IndyCar race because because what you said a minute ago, their chassis are the same. Nobody's running away and hiding. Now, Alex Palou is a little bit this year because he's just been on another planet, but he's not nowhere near what Max is doing. Anyway, what's your thoughts on that?
That's true. So I'm yes, my initial answer is yes, there is. And I think it's a little bit of a different reason than yours, but so I think for a lot of, and as Americans, that was always part of the downside to Formula One that we couldn't get into was most of it was overseas. And we didn't know the drivers, and that's important to Americans. I think that's more important to Americans than Europeans, really, or anybody else for that matter. We have to know the driver, and it's hard to get to know these guys.
It is.
Well, then we got Drive to Survive, and it came on board, and people start watching Formula One, and it starts getting more popular. But Americans have a very addictive personalities, man. So we can never get enough of something that we like. And I've, just noticed that in my travels. It's just one of those things where we always want more. And Formula One does have 2 and 3 week gaps, and they do have a summer break that's a month long. And we had a month off because China got canceled. And we're not going to deal with that very well. So Indy fills those gaps, and I think that brought in fans too. And now it's not just to fill the gap anymore. It's like, holy crap, I watched it this weekend and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to watch it next week, and I'm going to watch it the week
it's good racing. And I really wonder if it's going to gain some traction. I'm not saying it's going to. When I say gain traction, I just wonder if it's going to become bigger in Europe. I wonder if they'll start watching it the way we watch F1. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. And here's the thing though. Over there, man, Formula One is, when people aren't watching Formula One, they're watching soccer, football. I mean, it's just life over there. So
I just wonder if it's gonna be that when they get that month break, are they gonna be like, yeah, I'll watch it and see what it is? You know what I mean? Maybe they don't like it, maybe they do, whatever. I just wonder if that's what it'll be.
They're also big fans of world endurance and rally, so that a lot of pulls on their time from a racing standpoint. I know a lot of the F1 drivers that like IndyCar, which I think is cool. And for me, that's cool enough. You know what I mean? But I think it would be hard pressed to say that Drive to Survive has not had an impact on IndyCar's viewership either, because it's open wheel racing.
Yep.
With drivers that live here for the most part that and you get that good mix, which is where NASCAR is going right now. Zenwater, yeah, nice. You get that good mix of oval and road course. So if you're a NASCAR purist, you're going to love the IndyCar ovals, and if you're a progressive thinker who likes turning in all directions besides left, um, then yeah, you get all those nice road courses and street courses.
For sure.
So, and Road America was no different this weekend. That's a crazy place. But
it's a
anyway,
crazy place.
So yeah,
all right, man.
I think it's cool that we both said yes. I didn't know if you would.
I did. So
podiums and back markers, and let's call this bird and get out of here.
Well, just real quickly, I don't have any podiums or back markers again this week. It's been a crazy couple of weeks at work, so we'll just say podium. My podium is Mercedes, Red Bull, Aston Martin, and my back markers are Haas, Williams, and AlphaTauri. And just real quickly before you give yours, because yours are probably really well thought out. Just quick NASCAR news: Josh Berry is headed to the number 4 car with Stuart Haas Racing. So that's kind of a big deal. Benny in the streets. I'll talk about it a little more next week, but just wanted to at least mention it.
Okay.
All right, podiums, back markers for Jay.
Okay, so my my podium, I'm gonna go reverse order this time. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, which technically isn't reverse order, but so I'm gonna go with not Aston Martin. I'm gonna go with Fernando Alonso because they kept it under double digit for Michael. Mercedes as a team, minus George Russell, for bringing their upgrade package and giving Lewis the confidence enough to race the way he likes racing. And my third place is Team Ferrari. Although I was hard pressed not to pick Red Bull because 100 wins is big. I think only 5 F1 teams have won 100 races. My podiums was almost a no-brainer this week. Nick DeVries gets the top of my podium and the Nicholas Latifi Award. Romain Grosjean gets second. And Carlos Sainz gets third, but not because he's a bad guy or a bad driver, but because what he did to Pierre Gasly. Because I think Gasly was creeping on a come-up this weekend and probably could have had a decent race.
Yeah, he said he probably had a 6th or 7th place car right there. And he thought that's where it was going to be when he crossed. And, yeah, it sucks that it was taken away from him.
Yeah.
Just real quick on Fuel Pod news. Next week, here's the deal. During the summer schedule, my crew has a weird schedule. So just come watch Fuel Pod whenever you want to watch it. You don't have to always watch it live. We may record it at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. We might record it at 9 o'clock like normal. But just, you come watch it. It'll be here. It's on our YouTube channel. So come watch it whenever you want to watch it or listen to it whenever you want to listen to it. But one thing we've decided to do a little differently this year as far as Jay and I, we're still doing our 2-player career, and F1 2023 is fantastic. The cars are stable. The graphics are great. The 2-player career is rolling pretty well.
It is.
And Jay, we landed at Aston Martin. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow the season.
We did.
So we're not going to race during the week. We're not going to race. We're only going to race the race that's coming. So this week we're not racing at all. Next week we'll be racing Austria. So make sure if you want to watch us on the track, if you want to watch us, we'll stream all of it. We don't usually do practice, but now we can do a little bit better. We might just stream all of it, but we can talk about the track a little bit. We can talk about what's going on in the race. You'll hear us completely unedited talking about how terrible I am. And anyway, it's fun. So if you want to watch us, I'm Chad H610 on Twitch, and Jay is
JNeil729.
And then if you're not following Jay on Twitter, you're messing up. He's JNeil729 on Twitter as well, and he's constantly tweeting something out about racing and motorsports. It's a lot of fun. I'm more poking fun at people, so if you want to see me poke fun at people, I'm Chad H610 on Twitter. And Jay, you have anything else, buddy?
I don't, man.
All right, man. We will see you next week. Fuel Pod Nation, go to our Etsy store, fuelpod.etsy.com. See some of Jay's work, buy some merch. We need all the help we can get. And if you know anybody out there, hold on, another thing. If you know anybody out there that's a racer or a local racer or a racer in your community, wherever you're listening to us at, hit us up because we would love to interview them. We need more interviews on this show. We need a interview on this show, whichever one it is. And so if anybody wants to come on that's racing and wants to come on and just talk about it a little bit, their discipline, hit us up. We'd love to have you on.
Yep.
Hi, Jay.
Bye. Night.